It all began with a simple notification video from my aunt. I was in the middle of making dinner when my phone buzzed. Wiping my hands on a towel, I absent-mindedly tapped the message, expecting something random, maybe an old family clip. Instead, I heard my mother's voice. Emma should be grateful. She'd be nothing without us. My stomach dropped. The video was shaky, like someone had accidentally left their phone recording, but the voices were crystal clear. Then came my father's chuckle. A pathetic failure, that's what Emma is. My hands trembled as I gripped the phone tighter, and then it got worse. My aunt smirked, her voice dripping with mockery. If Emma ever stops sending money, we'll just guilt her into it. She's too soft to say no. My whole body went numb. They weren't talking about some stranger, they were talking about me. For years I had sacrificed everything for them, paid their rent, covered their debts, drained my savings all, because I believed they loved me. But now, this? Their laughter echoed in my ears, sharp and cruel. My mother's words cut deepest. If she stops sending money, we'll have to find another way to handle her. I felt like the ground beneath me had crumbled. Memories flooded back every late-night call I answered, every paycheck I handed over, every personal dream I sacrificed. I thought I was helping my family, that they cared about me. But this video revealed the truth. I wasn't their daughter or sister, I was their ATM. When the video disappeared with a cold, "This message has been unsent," I didn't confront anyone. I just sat there, frozen, staring at my phone, feeling betrayed in ways I couldn't even put into words. For years, I convinced myself that I was doing the right thing, that my family needed me. I paid their rent when they were short on cash, covered my brother's tuition, even though he dropped out after one semester, and settled medical bills that somehow always appeared when I got my paycheck. I gave them everything, my savings, my time, my energy. When Dad said he needed help with his temporary financial struggles, I didn't hesitate. That temporary struggle turned into me paying his rent for 3 years straight. My mom's emergencies became a monthly ritual: car repairs, utility bills, groceries, and every time I handed over what little I had left. But it wasn't just about money, it was about sacrifice. I sold my car, the only thing of real value I owned, to pay off a debt my brother racked up. Do you know what it's like to walk everywhere in the rain because you don't have a vehicle? I do. I lived in a tiny, rundown apartment with peeling wallpaper and a leaky roof because I couldn't afford anything better. For months, my meals consisted of instant noodles and cheap coffee. I told myself it was worth it. After all, this was my family. They loved me. They appreciated me. Or so I thought. Looking back now, I realize how naive I was. I believed the lies they fed me. Emma, you're the glue holding this family together. But the truth? I was the ATM. Every dollar I gave them disappeared into their endless demands, and not once did they ask if I was okay. Not once did they notice the toll it took on me. I worked 3 jobs at one point, juggling shifts to make ends meet while still sending them money. I wore hand-me-down clothes and skipped vacations because I couldn't afford them. And yet, I never complained. I thought I was helping, but in reality, I was being used. Even as doubts crept in, I pushed them aside. My mom's voice echoed in my head. "We raised you, Emma. We took care of you when you had nothing." Except they didn't. I put myself through school. I clawed my way out of poverty, only to have them latch onto me like leeches the moment I started earning a decent income. The worst part? I didn't see it coming. I trusted them. I believed they cared. But now, after hearing that video, I know the truth. They never saw me as a person. I was just a source of money, a safety net they exploited without remorse. That night, after the video disappeared with a cold, "This message has been unsent," I didn't confront anyone. Instead, I sat in silence, staring at my phone like it was a ticking bomb. The voices from the recording replayed in my head on an endless loop. My mother's sharp words, my aunt's mocking laugh, my father's dismissive chuckle. Emma should be grateful. A pathetic failure. She's too soft to say no. Each phrase felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. Sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces smirking, laughing, tearing me apart. I imagined what would happen if they knew I still planned to send money. Would they laugh even harder? Would they pat themselves on the back for having such a gullible fool in the family? The thought made me sick. What hurt most wasn't just their betrayal, it was realizing how blind I'd been. For years, I convinced myself that helping them was proof of love, but now I understood. They never saw me as a person. To them, I was nothing more than a source of income, a safety net they could exploit without guilt or remorse. But something inside me shifted that night. As much as I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg for answers, I stopped myself. This wasn't about them anymore, it was about me. If I confronted them now, they'd deny everything. They'd twist the situation, guilt-trip me into staying silent, and I'd end up right back where I started. Trapped. No, this time I needed to act differently. Quietly? Strategically? I spent hours sitting in the dark, mapping out my next steps. My hands trembled as I opened a blank document on my laptop. I listed every payment I'd ever made, tuition, medical bills, all the ways I'd bled myself dry for people who didn't care about me. Then I drafted a plan. Cut them off completely, expose their manipulation, and reclaim my life. It sounded simple, but the weight of it terrified me. What if they turned on me? What if they tried to make me feel guilty again? Worse yet, what if they succeeded? Still, I couldn't unsee the truth. Their laughter haunted me, but it also fueled me. By morning, I had made my decision. I wouldn't let fear dictate my choices anymore. If they wanted to see me as selfish, so be it. At least I'd finally be free. The message came early, just like always. "Morning, sweetie. Just checking in. Hope you're doing well." I stared at the screen, my coffee growing cold beside me. It was never just a casual check-in with Mom. There was always an agenda hidden beneath the surface. Sure enough, seconds later, another buzz. "Oh, by the way, rent is due soon. Can you send it by Friday?" This time, I didn't type out my usual reply. "No, of course," or "no problem." Instead, I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then, slowly, I typed, "I can't this month. Unexpected expenses." My heart raced as I hit send, but I forced myself to set the phone down. The silence that followed felt heavier than any response ever could. Buzz. Buzz? Buzz. The notifications exploded one after another. "What do you mean you can't?" Mom's frustration bled through the screen. "Emma, this isn't a game. We're counting on you." Another message popped up, this time from Aunt D. "Sweetie, your mom is freaking out. Is everything okay?" I almost laughed. Okay, sure, everything was great for them anyway. For years I'd been their safety net, and now, the moment I hinted at stopping, they panicked. Then came the guilt trip. "You know your brother has no way to cover rent if he gets kicked out. That's on you," Mom wrote. Classic. A few minutes later, she sent a photo of a fake medical bill. "Your dad needs this covered urgently. Please, Emma, we've done so much for you." I clenched my jaw, staring at the image. At first glance, it seemed real, but something felt off. I zoomed in. The date was wrong. They hadn't even bothered to make it convincing. For the first time, I didn't cave. I didn't scramble to fix things or apologize for letting them down. Instead, I replied simply, "Sorry, I can't help this time." The silence that followed was deafening. I imagined Mom sitting there, seething, trying to figure out her next move. Dad chimed in with a voice message. "Emma, grow up. This family needs you. Stop being selfish." His words stung, but not enough to break me. They weren't used to this version of Mitha, one who didn't fold under pressure. For years, I'd been their obedient ATM, handing over money without question. But now, I was different. I wasn't afraid anymore. The messages came in waves, relentless and suffocating. My phone buzzed non-stop texts, calls, even voice notes all from them. Each word was a calculated strike, designed to break me. "Emma, how could you do this to your own family?" My mom wrote, her tone dripping with accusation. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us." My dad's voice message was worse. "If you don't send that money, I'm suing you for abandoning your responsibilities. You think you can just walk away? Blood means nothing to you anymore." And then there was Jason. His texts were short but venomous. "You're a traitor, Emma. No one will ever trust you again." The words stung, but I refused to respond. Every time they reached out, I let their messages sit unread, unanswered. Silence was my weapon now, and it infuriated them. Their desperation grew with each passing hour. Mom sent a barrage of texts, each more dramatic than the last. "Your brother might lose his apartment because of you? Is that what you want? For him to end up on the streets?" Dad chimed in with threats. "You'll regret this, Emma. When you need us, don't come crawling back." But I didn't flinch. I knew their tactics: guilt, manipulation, fear-mongering, and I wasn't falling for them anymore. The tension reached its peak when Jason showed up at my door again. This time he wasn't alone. My dad stood behind him, his face red with anger. "We gave you life, Emma," he spat, his voice trembling with rage. "And this is how you treat us?" "Like garbage," Jason added. "You're selfish. You're ungrateful. You don't deserve to call us family." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry or beg for forgiveness. Instead, I looked them straight in the eye and said, "If being part of this family means being treated like an ATM, then maybe I don't want to be part of it anymore." Their faces twisted in disbelief. They weren't used to this version of Mitha, one who didn't fold under pressure, the one who wasn't afraid to stand her ground. As they stormed off, slamming the door behind them, I felt a strange sense of calm. They could scream, threaten, and insult me all they wanted, but none of it mattered anymore. I had taken control and they couldn't handle it. The knock at my door came early, too early. My heart sank as I approached, already knowing who it was. Jason. He didn't bother waiting for me to fully open the door before pushing past me, his face a storm of anger and desperation. "What the hell is wrong with you, Emma?" he snapped, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. I closed the door slowly, steadying myself. This wasn't going to be pleasant, but I was done letting them walk all over me. "I'm not doing this anymore, Jason," I said calmly, crossing my arms. "No more money. No more guilt trips. You've had your chance." His jaw tightened, and for a moment he just stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "You think this is some kind of game? You're cutting us off like we're strangers? After everything we've done for you?" I laughed bitterly, the sound echoing in the small room. "Done for me? Oh, please. You mean like how you all sat around laughing at me in that video, calling me a pathetic failure, saying I should be grateful for the chance to pay your bills?" Jason froze, his face paling. "What video?" he stammered, but his voice betrayed him. He knew exactly what I was talking about. "Don't play dumb," I shot back, my voice cold. "I saw it, heard every word, and now I know the truth. You never cared about me. I was just your personal ATM." That's when he lost it. With a growl, he grabbed the nearest object to vase and hurled it across the room. It shattered against the wall, shards scattering everywhere. "You ungrateful brat," he shouted, his chest heaving. "Do you have any idea what you're throwing away? Family doesn't abandon family." But I didn't flinch. Instead, I reached for my phone and dialed 3 numbers. "What are you doing?" he demanded, his voice rising in panic. "Calling the police?" I replied, my tone icy. "You want to act like a child? Fine, but I'm not dealing with this anymore." For a moment, he looked like he might lunge at me, but then he stopped, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "You'll regret this," he muttered, his voice trembling with rage. "When you realize you have no one left, don't come crawling back." "I won't," I said firmly, meeting his gaze without hesitation. "Because I have myself, and that's more than enough." He stormed out, slamming the door behind him, leaving me alone with the mess he'd made. But I didn't care. For the first time, I felt truly free. That night, I sat at my desk with a single goal in mind: to make them see the truth. For years, they had taken everything from me: my money, my time, my energy, and now it was time for them to face the consequences. I opened my laptop and began typing, my fingers trembling with both anger and determination. First, I compiled every financial record I could find: rent payments, tuition transfers, medical bills, even grocery receipts. Each number told a story of sacrifice, of nights I went hungry so they could eat, of dreams I postponed so they could thrive. But I didn't stop there. I dug deeper, pulling out old voice recordings I'd saved over the years, moments when they admitted their dependence on me. "Emma's always been there for us," my mom had once said during a family call. "She'll handle it." Another clip featured my dad casually mentioning how I owed them for raising me. These weren't just words, they were proof of their manipulation, their entitlement. I attached everything to the email, ensuring they couldn't deny what they'd done. At the top of the document, I wrote a note: "Here's a detailed summary of everything I've given you. This is the last time I look back at the past. From now on, I live for myself." Below it, I listed every payment, every favor, every moment I'd bled myself dry for people who never cared about me. The email ended with a line that made my chest tighten as I typed it: "I've paid enough for all of you." Before hitting send, I hesitated. My heart raced as I imagined their reactions: the shock, the anger, the guilt. But then I reminded myself why I was doing this. They had treated me like an ATM, a safety net, a source of endless cash. And now, they would know exactly what they had lost. With a deep breath, I clicked send. I opened the family group chat for the last time, my fingers steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. For years, this chat had been a source of endless guilt trips, and demands, a constant reminder that I owed them everything. But not anymore. I scrolled through the messages one final time. Mom complaining about rent, Dad lecturing me about responsibility, Jason casually mentioning how Emma always handles it. It was all there: the manipulation, the entitlement, the lies. Then I typed my final message: "You've all used me for years, pretending to care while taking everything I had. I'm done being your emotional punching bag and your personal ATM. Don't ever contact me again." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The silence that followed was deafening. No frantic replies, no desperate attempts to guilt me, not yet, anyway. For a moment, it felt like the world had paused. I didn't wait for their reaction. Instead, I blocked every single member of the chat: Mom, Dad, Jason, Aunt, and deleted the app entirely. As the screen faded to black, I took a screenshot of the last message I'd sent. It wasn't just a goodbye. It was proof that I had finally taken control. Within minutes, my phone buzzed with calls and texts from unknown numbers. They were trying to find new ways to reach me, but it was too late. I ignored everything, savoring the quiet that followed. Hours later, Jason's voice message came through on an old email account he somehow still had access to. "You're making a mistake, Emma? Family sticks together." His tone was angry, but beneath it, I heard panic. I smiled to myself. This was what freedom felt like. No more guilt. No more manipulation. Just silence. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. The weight that had been crushing me for years, the guilt, the manipulation, the endless demands was finally gone. I woke up one morning and realized I didn't have to check my phone for messages from them anymore. No more guilt trips. No more emergencies they expected me to fix. It was just me, alone with my thoughts. And it felt peaceful. A few days later, a letter arrived from their lawyer. I opened it, half expecting some dramatic ultimatum. But it was exactly what I thought it would be. A threat to sue me for abandoning my family responsibilities. I read it once, then folded it neatly and dropped it into the trash. A small smile played on my lips as I walked away. They were still trying to control me even now, but it didn't matter. I had taken back my power and their threats couldn't touch me anymore. That evening, I booked a one-way ticket to a country I'd always dreamed of visiting. Somewhere no one knew who I was or what I'd been through. As I packed my bags, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. My eyes looked different, brighter, lighter, like a weight had been lifted not just from my shoulders but from my soul. The day I boarded the plane, I felt a sense of triumph I'd never known before. This wasn't just an escape. It was a new beginning. For so long, I'd lived for everyone else, for my mom, my dad, my brother. But now, I was living for me. I found a small cafe near my new apartment, where the barista greeted me by name after just a week. I started taking long walks by the ocean, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the time for. And slowly, I began to rebuild my life not as Emma, the family ATM, but as Emma, the woman who chose herself. Looking back, I realized the sweetest revenge wasn't loud or explosive. It wasn't about screaming matches or public confrontations. It was about taking control, about proving to myself that I could stand on my own 2 feet. And as the plane soared into the sky, I whispered to myself, this is just the beginning. Emma's story is one of quiet, strengthened, silent rebellion against years of manipulation and control. She didn't scream, fight, or demand justice in a dramatic showdown. Instead, she chose silence as her weapon, cutting ties with the people who had drained her for so long. By blocking their calls, sending that final email, and stepping onto a plane to a new life, Emma proved something powerful. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud, it's deliberate. It's about reclaiming your power without giving others the satisfaction of seeing you break. But here's the question. Was Emma too harsh? Could she have given her family another chance, hoping they might change? Or was walking away the only way to truly protect herself? The truth is, Emma didn't owe them anything, not after everything they'd done. They saw her as a resource, not a person, and no amount of second chances could fix that. Her decision wasn't just about leaving, it was about choosing herself for the first time in her life. As she boarded the plane, ticket in hand, Emma smiled to herself. This wasn't an escape, it was a victory. For years, she had lived under their shadow, sacrificing her happiness for theirs. But now, she was stepping into the light, ready to build a life where she wasn't defined by their expectations or demands. This is my real beginning, she whispered, staring out the window as the plane soared into the sky. So, what do you think? Was Emma's choice justified? Would you have done the same? Or would you have tried to mend the broken pieces of your family? Either way, her journey reminds us of an important truth. Standing up for yourself isn't always easy, but it's always worth it.